working. So here's Commissioner Freeling's on her way in here, so just one more second.
Okay.
No, I'm not letting you.
Oh, please.
All right, she's in. Maybe if you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Berrien County Finance Committee meeting. Stephanie, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Present via Zoom from the city of Benton Harbor.
Commissioner Hinkleman,
Present, Zoom Waterley.
Commissioner Scott,
Present Zoom, New Buffalo Township.
Commissioner Freeling.
Present Zoom, Rhoda Township.
Good morning. Good morning,
morning.
all, and thank you. Annette, will you work with us, please, with the agenda and the order of business?
Sure, absolutely. So this morning, your first up on your agenda is financial analyst Jake Lineker with bid number 2021-017 for printing paper.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Medica, for being here.
Yeah. So we sent this out to 4 bidders, 2 responded. The first one is Lindenmeyer Monroe out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
May I ask you, Commissioner Scott, would you pay good attention and make the report of the bid?
Yes, ma'am, I surely will.
Thank you.
Their bid is for $40,859.27. The other bidder is Central Michigan Paper out of Ada, Michigan. Their bid is for $35,972.88.
So you sent it out to 4 and 2 responded?
That's correct.
Okay. May I have a motion, please, to accept these bids?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Freeling. I would move that we accept these bids and send it back to staff to review. And if it meets all of the criteria, that we move forward with the lowest bid.
Thank you. May I have a support?
Commissioner Scott, I'll support.
Thank you. Any questions? Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeling.
Oh, she froze. Hang on.
It froze?
Yeah, she's frozen. Just a second. There she goes.
Commissioner Freeling,
Can you hear us? Commissioner Freeling? Commissioner Freeling? Nope, she can't hear. Can you hear us?
She's unmuted.
Yes, I can hear you.
Maybe ask Commissioner Freeling to put thumbs up if she votes yes.
Oh, I can hear you guys now. I vote yes.
It was like you weren't moving. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I froze. Thank you.
That shows the real need for, yeah, the motion
does.
carries. Thank you. Do you have another bid?
That is the only bid for today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Medican.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Annette?
Yep, Brian, you want to
Yep.
lead in?
All right, members of the board, I'm going to quickly grab a hold of the screen I've got a couple of files to display. So this is the first file, just laying out some recommendations. So we have GRS on the line today. Our consultants with GRS are going to be updating the board on the pension values, and we will be coming back after the GRS presentation and asking the board to take affirmative action. So this file, I will bring it back up after we've completed the presentation from GRS. And then to the team at GRS, I do have your presentation file. I can display it. However, if either of you, Heidi or Kevin, wishes to do the display, either way is fine. Just let me know.
You can display it. That's fine.
Good
Okay.
morning, and excuse me 1 minute. May I just ask something?
Yes, ma'am.
What connection does this have with our pension with Chicago? You know, when we have that, what layer is this?
Okay, Mimi, Gabriel Roder Smith, or what we refer to as GRS, are our actuaries. So they determine the different values in the pension units and tell us about funding requirements. Chicago is Russell Investments, and they're our investment manager. So then they're the ones trying to meet the targets that the actuaries help us set so that our plan is properly funded.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, is it okay if I go ahead and display the information that's going to be discussed?
Yes, please.
Okay, before I do that, Heidi or Kevin, just to confirm, do you want me to pull up the information, or do either of you wish to do that?
Brian, you can go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, and Kevin, I'm not sure if it's you or Heidi that's going to take the lead, but I'll scroll through this information.
Okay, I'm going to take the lead for now.
Okay.
So good morning, everyone, and thanks for allowing us to meet with you on relatively short notice. So this letter essentially is to summarize our recommendations from the experience study that we did in September. And as a reminder, we do an experience study every 5 years typically to review the assumptions that are used in our annual valuation report. And so the reason we're meeting today is to confirm the assumptions used for the 2020 valuation, which we're starting to work on now. So in the experience study, the main 3 things that we want to bring to your attention today. And Brian, if you would go to the bottom of page 2 of the PDF, please. There are 3 main things, like 3 sections, basically. There's the demographic assumptions, which have to do with like mortality tables, rates of disability and retirement that we have to assume for the valuation. The second one is the economic assumptions, which is essentially the investment rate of return, wage inflation, things like that we have to use. And then the third is the assumptions used for the option factors. And when I say option factors, this means the rates of reduction that individual retirees receive if they choose to have a joint survivor benefit, if they have a surviving beneficiary. So those are the 3 main things that stand out with the experience study. The experience study is long and goes through a lot of individual assumptions. So in the essence of time, and I really don't want you to fall asleep on me, we're just going to be brief. And if there are specific questions regards to the experience study report itself, and we'd be happy to answer it. If that makes sense, I just want to pause to ask if there are any questions so far. You understand kind of what I'm getting at, I guess. Okay, so the first thing that we look at, the first group of assumptions that we look at for the experience study are the demographic assumptions. And this basically, like I said, the main assumption with this is mortality tables. So For mortality, this applies to all members, active and retirees. And let's see, Brian, if you scroll, could you scroll up just a little bit, please, on this page? Thank you. So this is reviewing the demographic assumptions. This is the section of the letter that I'm speaking about right now. So this assumption is relatively straightforward because every time we do an experience study, we typically will update to the most recent ones released by the Society of Actuaries. And so when most of the plans that we have, when they review assumptions, we recommend the Pub 210 mortality tables, which are the most recent ones. And again, the details of this are kind of long and boring, but the overall result is generally a decrease in liabilities, which means we're projecting slightly less future lifetime. So for your plan, and since the contribution rates and the liabilities are broken down by group, it varies a little bit. But the general overall picture for this is a decrease in contribution and liabilities. So if we were to, accept this change, it would mean that looking at the 2019 results, which are the last completed results we have, your contribution amount would go down slightly, so it's a good thing. And then the funded status would go up, which is again a good thing. Like I said, the mortality is the main driver for the demographic assumptions. Other examples are rates of retirement, which for active members, we have to assume that they will leave the plan at a certain rate. So throughout the long experience study, we look at these things based on group over the last 5 years. So in general, when we recommend the demographic assumptions, we recommend you adopt them as a package. So we're talking about the mortality tables, the retirement rates, and everything else, most everything else that we went through for the experience study. And for all 4 groups, if you combine the effect of the mortality table change and the other assumptions, it would be a decrease in liabilities and a decrease in contribution. So Brian, if you wouldn't mind, if you'd scroll down to, I think it's page 9 of the PDF. Thank you, sir. So this, we have this page in this table here that you see. We have this for each group, for pension and for the health piece of your retirement plan. So we have courthouse, sheriff, Riverwood, and road department. So the column on the left shows you the 2019 valuation results, and what you can see is courthouse. So the current computed employer rate for courthouse that was done in the 2019 valuation is the 14.11%. So when I was talking about the demographic assumptions, if you look to the column to the second column from the left, this would be your results if you adopted all of the demographic assumptions that I kind of am summarizing here. So for example, when I said, we're recommending new mortality tables and other rates of retirement and that sort of thing for courthouse, if you adopted that package, the contribution rate would drop from 14.11% to 13.88% as of the 2019 valuation date. And even though the magnitude of the change is not the same per each group, it's a decrease for each of the pension groups. For health, it's a little different, and it varies by group. There's a couple groups that increase slightly due to a separate OPEB assumption, which I can go into in a minute if you want. But the main focus is typically on pension. So for the demographic assumptions for the package that we're recommending, it would be this second from the left column here for all of the tables on the following 2 pages, 2 or 3 pages. So before I talk about the next piece, the economic assumption, I wanted to ask if there are any questions with regard to the demographic package that we're recommending. Okay, then, so typically with the experience study, we recommend that. And then we also recommend changing the, like I said, the economic assumptions. So I'll stay on this page for a minute. The again, looking just at this table with the for specifically for courthouse pension, the 3 columns to the right are alternate interest rates that we are putting in front of you basically for consideration. So as a brief summary, when we review the investment return assumption, we as the actuaries have to opine on what we think is a reasonable assumption. And we have a capital marketing modeler basically that puts together information from various consultants. I think it's between 12 and 14 investment consultants. And what it does is it takes your current asset allocation for the retirement plan and shows a range of expected returns from each of these investment consultants. And then from there, we sort of take an average to come up with what we think is a reasonable rate. So the investment return assumption is perhaps the most important assumption for a retirement plan because it drives the liabilities and the contribution rate more than any other assumption. So we feel that your current 7.25% investment return assumption is too high. It's out of what we consider to be reasonable at this point. So we are recommending lowering that assumption. And the range that we recommend is somewhere between 6 and 7%. That's a wide range. And obviously, the lower you go, the higher the liabilities are, and the higher the contribution would be. So when we're coming to you today, we're asking about the demographic assumptions, which most of the time, like I said, we are relatively straightforward. But these 3 columns to the right with the alternate interest rates also include the demographic package already built into it. So when you're looking at the rate increase, if you were to adopt a different interest rate, it includes the demographic assumptions as well. So one more thing I wanted to say with regard to the investment return assumption is because of the actuarial standards of practice, we have to review this rate of the reasonability of this every year, regardless of an experience study or not. So if, for example, the board or the committee were to adopt 7% to lower it, we would say that's fine with us. But there is a higher likelihood that we would have to come back to you next year and say we might have to review this assumption again because it's within the higher end of the range. If you were to do something extreme and do 6%, for example, we would say we would obviously probably we wouldn't have to talk about this for a very long time, but that is an extreme example only. So with regard to the purpose of this letter, the main purpose of this letter and the discussion that we would like to have with you is recommending that we adopt the demographic assumptions for the 2020 pension valuation, which we're currently working on, and to have input from you regarding the investment return assumption, what you would feel comfortable with in regards to that. And I've been speaking for a while, so I wanted to ask if Heidi has any input, anything to add. Otherwise, I will stop talking.
I'll just add that there is a lot more detail about our analysis in the experience study report, how we come up with the numbers, and the range from 6 to 7% really combines short-term and long-term expectations. So if you're looking in the short term, the interest rates are a lot lower. If you're looking at the longer term, that's how we get to justify 7%. So if you do choose 7%, there's a very good possibility that we will have to lower it in the next year or two. The other thing I'll mention is that none of the analysis that we've done has any impact of COVID whatsoever. We don't know how that is going to, what that's going to look like going forward. So as that materializes and we learn more about what is happening as a result of COVID, we will either make recommendations or, adjust things as necessary.
Heidi and Kevin, are there any of the additional tables that you'd like to have the committee take a harder look at?
The third piece that I mentioned was the option factors. So let me see if on this page or on this, it's page 7 of the PDF. Thank you. That's perfect. So typically when we review assumptions for the valuation, we'll also talk briefly about the assumptions that are used to calculate the reduction for when a retiree elects a joint survivor benefit. And the assumptions do not have to be the same as the valuation. They do not have to be updated for purposes of the valuation. But it's been a while since this plan updated them, I think. The mortality table that it's using, it's very old. And so if we're recommending to look at that assumption again. And what that means is if you were to adopt let's say the same mortality table as the valuation assumption, what this will do is this will directly give the retirees that elect a joint survivor benefit a higher benefit amount, because they will be receiving a less harsh, I guess, reduction for choosing a joint survivor benefit. And the reason that is because since the mortality tables that this plan's using are so old, they're not projecting very long future lifetimes compared to what we have now. So the chance that a survivor would live longer than the retiree is less than it used to be, let's say. So this table here shows examples of if you have a retiree who's age 50 and a beneficiary age 45, the current reduction factor that they would receive is 0.92915, which means that if their monthly benefit was $1,000, in order to have their spouse or their beneficiary as the 50% joint survivor of the benefit, then their benefit would have to be reduced to $929. And so same thing for if the 100% joint survivor to the right, it's the same situation. So this is something that is kind of thinking about it as more fair to the member than it is to the retirement plan. This is in an attempt to be actuarial equivalent, which is to essentially say whether it doesn't matter what benefit amount they elect, is the same to the retirement plan. That's why we reduce it. Sometimes what we do, or most of the time what we do, is we'll have a level of conservatism built into this, because members are able to make the decision that's best for them. So they know their personal situation to take advantage of it the best they can. So for this specific assumption, we're recommending a 6% interest rate assumption. And what this does is it gives, like I said, it builds a level of conservatism in, so there's a slightly higher rate of reduction for electing a benefit than there would be if you were to use the same valuation assumptions that we're recommending. So it's to protect the plan a little bit. But as a reminder, this assumption wouldn't directly tie to the valuation results. So the 6% interest rate we're using here would not make if you were to adopt the 6% in this specific assumption, it would not affect the funding requirements, basically. Heidi, would you agree? Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, the current is already at 6%. So
okay.
I think what Kevin's saying is we don't want to change that. We don't want it to be tied to the investment return assumption to the plan, because that does put the plan at a greater risk. You're taking on that extra investment risk. So it's a little bit more conservative than your valuation assumption. The other thing I would just add with regard to the mortality table, so we're currently using a 1971 mortality table. The optics of that is not a good thing. You could receive a lot of scrutiny if your members, if we don't want lawsuits or anything like that coming back to you because the tables are so old. That's been happening more recently where people are upset that the factors are so old, especially we're in 2020 now, you're using a 50-year-old table. Which is why we're recommending that maybe you tie the mortality table to the valuation table being used, or a static version of that, just so that you're keeping up with the times and you don't have any of that backlash or whatever from the outside, the scrutiny of outside people or members.
It's more fair to the members.
So that is the reason we're suggesting updating it. That's all I have to add for that.
Okay. So I think, Brian, I think that's all that I have to look at directly for the letter. Just as a reminder, if you're interested in seeing the effect that what we're recommending would have on each individual group, that is in the back of the letter here and in the experience study, broken down by group, for your consideration.
Yep.
So to the Finance Committee, I'm just going to pull up the following page. And what I'd like you all to look at is this information that I'm highlighting. So this information that's now highlighted in yellow, this is a summary of what Heidi and Kevin have talked with the Finance Committee about. And I forwarded today's report and the staff memo to the Finance Committee. Now, as I look at my sent folder, I had set up an appointment for last Monday to send all of this out to Finance, and I did not send it to you all. So that's absolutely my mistake. And if the Finance Committee needs a few more days to go through the documents and ask any questions, that's certainly fine. However, if Finance is ready to proceed with a motion to approve the language that's highlighted in yellow, that would certainly be acceptable to staff. So it is completely up to the elected officials on what your pleasure is.
Commissioners, would you have any input? Do you have questions? What do you want to do?
Madam Chair, this
Yes.
is Commissioner Freeland. Me personally, I'd like to be able to review some of the actual scenario of what these assumptions and rates will do. If I remember correctly, when I served on finance 5 years ago, we had conversation about the rate of assumption. And I think at that point in time, we were at 8%, and we have slowly made our way down. But if I remember correctly, 0.5% is a pretty significant contribution from the county. So just understanding that. I also know with the relief package, there's some information out there as well of the relief package that was just passed from the federal government has some pension aid included in it as well. So I was wondering if I could read a little bit further on that and see how that would be impacting what we're doing. And then Shelley, this question is you. the mortality rates, I thought that 5 years ago we had conversation about updating that and having a table that we're utilizing. Do you remember that discussion at all?
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I don't remember that. It's very possible.
Okay. Yeah, I would just feel a little more comfortable. I'm quite certain that we need to change our rate of assumption, but I want to see what the impact is for the county. That's my feeling.
Yes,
Commissioners, can I follow up on that statement?
yes.
Okay, so on the American Recovery Act, it is fast flowing through the federal government. A couple of days ago, we were running with the assumption that OPEB is not an eligible expense. As recently as last night, I was looking at some files that indicate that it could be an eligible expense. What we know is that the county is set to receive about $30 million allocation of federal funds. If we can book any of those towards OPEB costs, great. Now, what we know is today, Michigan Association of Counties, later this afternoon, NACO, the MML, and on, MTA, et cetera, are all pushing more information out about what will be included in the American Recovery Act. Next week, staff will be presenting a summary of what's included in the Act. So this is one that's, it seems to be a bit of a moving target right now. So I do think it's smart to pay very close attention to what's included in the Act, and if we can book any of our federal allocation towards pension or other costs, probably a very good idea.
May I say, since GRS is here, if the questions that we have, Brian, we could give them to you and you would pass them on to them for their recommendation?
Yeah, absolutely. If any of finance has questions, just send them to me. We'll push it out to Heidi and Kevin and have answers back to the group in a very short period of time.
And you know, when we meet with the people where our money is invested, the Chicago, I'm just going to say the Chicago people, then you'll know what I'm talking about rather than the name. What we hoped for, the 7.25, we did not know or really truly believe it would happen. We mess with that, or we fool with that number a lot, Shelley, just so. And that's our hope number. That's not our, we believe it's going to happen number. And so the fact that it's recommended that we lower it, I think is something we should definitely look at and do, so that otherwise, your name, sir, is Kevin?
Yes, Kevin Nelke.
Thank you. Rather than you're saying each year you have to change it or would recommend to us that we do. And what do you say is the logical, doable number? Is that the 6% you were talking about?
I think that is I was trying to use an extreme example for that. If you were to do that, for example, then that would really increase your cost a lot.
Oh.
So I think what we were looking more towards was the 6 3/4 or the 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you hadn't said it yet.
Yeah.
What you
My apologies for the confusion. Sorry.
It's okay. You said between 6 and 7. So
yes.
But there's 6.5 and 3/4, 6 3/4. Yes. Please, committee, you have other questions? Is John Hinkleman still here?
I am, Amy.
Yes.
Question for Shelley. Shelley, you're in the room. Shelley, this is your stage. How do you feel about what's been presented to the committee? I know this is the committee's decision, but how do you feel about it? Can you
help us?
Well, if you refer to Brian's memo, the 3 points that he had highlighted for you when it was on the screen, those I feel comfortable with. We've spoken with Doug James, the finance director, and he feels comfortable with that. Anytime we lower the assumed rate of investment return, we're always most likely going to increase the employer contribution level. So we chose a conservative 7%, so it's a much lower impact to the budget. We understand that we'll probably be back, like Heidi said, next year or the following year with another small percentage decrease. If it's the committee's desire to do a larger increase all at once, it will have a greater impact on the budget. So, whatever the committee decides is what we will do, but I think time is of the essence, and we probably need to make a decision sooner rather than later so that the actuaries can go forward with the calendar year 2020 report so that we can meet the auditor's deadlines for that also.
Just, Madam Chair, just to follow up on that statement.
Yes.
For finance, our pension board is set to meet, I believe, on the 25th of March. So again, as your staff, we're trying not to be pushy, but we would say, if you're not ready to take action today, I would certainly encourage finance to be ready for next Thursday. We'd love to have this wrapped up prior to the pension board meeting on the 25th.
Okay. So,
And Madam Chair, just very quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did want to text you that, and I'm not trying to compliment the actuaries or blow wind up their skirt, if you will, but they're very good at what they do. And so the assumptions that they're making are typically, they can be counted on. The past boards that I've served on found that to be true. So just know that the assumptions that they've made and the recommendation that staff has come up with the addition of the complement change with length of life not being as long at this point in time, that'll all congeal together, and it's probably a very good recommendation.
thank you. Thank you for that input, and that's what I want. Commissioner Scott?
Yeah, Madam Chair, my questions have already been answered. My question was going to be to Shelley, and she already answered the question was, how soon do we have to act on this? And I think I got that. So it has to be by our next meeting. Is that correct?
It doesn't necessarily have to be by next meeting. We're requesting it though as soon as possible so that we can give the actuaries guidance and let them know how they can continue forward with our next valuation report. So it doesn't necessarily have to be next week, but the longer we take to make the decision is the longer it will take the actuaries then to issue our annual report, which then could impact some audit deadlines. That's all we're saying, but it's the committee's prerogative when you make this decision.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And Kevin and Heidi, same type of question.
I agree with what Shelley says. We certainly can accommodate, most, if you have to take a little bit longer to decide, that's okay. I've got stuff that I can work on for your plan and move it forward, but she's right. There will be a time that we'll have to say, okay, we need an answer now, and we don't want to get to that point. So we just prefer to have it as soon as possible.
And if it's next week, would that be not too out of line? I asked Kevin and I asked Shelley.
Next week would be fine. Yes, no problem.
Shelley?
Yes, that would be fine, Madam Chair.
Let's work towards that because it sounds like it may be going to be 2 to 2. So I would like to give you all the opportunity to look at the paperwork and have questions and put them to Brian. And if Brian doesn't know, then he'll find out. He'll get the answer for us and be ready. And so I asked, do we make a motion now or what do we do? Brian?
So Madam Chair, if you're planning to just wait until next week to call for a vote, I think it's as simple as just postponing action. If you feel the need to table this until next Thursday, that's absolutely fine. But just at the informal level, if you all are comfortable with just saying we're going to delay action until next week, I think that's more than sufficient.
Would you tell me, commissioners, what do you want to do?
Madam Chair.
John has already told us what he wants to do.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Scott. I do agree that we need to make the best of our time here and get this done as soon as possible. but I would like to at least go over some of the reports before I make my vote.
Okay. Commissioner Freeling, and you've already told us also that you would like some time. And I'm going to go with having some time. So let's postpone the decision, but be ready next Thursday to take this to the whole board for their vote. Is that what has to happen, that it will be a resolution next week, Administrator?
I think it's just finance motion.
Yeah, this will just be done as a motion to approve the assumptions.
Good.
But,
Okay.
we can delay it. We'll delay this until next Thursday. We'll bring this back. The reports that have been referenced up on your screen today have been sent to you all. And
Okay.
if there are any questions that come up in the next few days, just send them to me. We'll get you answers. I think the biggest question mark really just ties back to what does the upcoming federal allocation mean, and does that need to be worked into any of the assumptions? And hopefully by next week, we'll have a better handle on whether or not the Recovery Act is a variable that needs to be considered.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Gabriel Roder-Smith, do you have anything else you would like to say to us?
Not from me, no.
No, thank you for having us and letting us help guide you in making a decision. If you have any questions, please send them to Brian. We're more than happy to assist.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm thankful for this Zoom, because when I saw you, Heidi, I remembered, because that's what I was thinking. What they're saying all these initials. But
it's been a while. I miss being out there and seeing everybody. I think there's some new faces too. So
yes, yes, that's true. Thank you so much for your time. And Brian, do you have anything else that you want them to bring to us?
No, but we do have some other items on today's agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Brian?
So.
We'll skip ahead.
Okay.
So we're just gonna go to the committee business for right now.
Sounds good. So to the committee, we're going to jump over our 9:30, move into committee business. And while doing that, I'll coordinate with Dan and Katie to get them ready for the RFP discussion. All right, so ma'am, we've got some resolutions for the committee's consideration.
Actually, I was gonna have let Chuck go ahead. Chuck's been sitting here patiently waiting.
I'm sorry.
Since GRS, so if you want to take the ammunition.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, Under Sheriff Height is on, and what I'm going to do is while Chuck connects with you all, I'm going to pull up a report that has been sent out to Finance related to the Sheriff's Office. So Chuck, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Would you please go ahead? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. What I did is I did a little memo, training ammunition we do every year, but I don't know how many people pay attention to ammunition, but ammunition is in short supply across the country, and it is getting more and more expensive. That's one reason we chose to go from the 40 caliber duty pistol to the 9mm, which is where ammunition is going. So before it would have just been an issue of costs, getting quotes, and in doing that. Obviously, one of the things we take into account this time is can our vendors actually produce what we're ordering. So we did ask for each of the 4 vendors. I got 4 quotes on there. The fortunate part when it came in, and I wanted you just to know the process, is the lowest cost vendor is also the one that has the best ability to get us in a timely fashion the ammunition we need. So per unit, it's not that expensive, but when you look totally, at the total, it's $32,000 expenditure. It is budgeted. It is within our normal training budget, but I just want to give you additional information as we go forward. So Vance, you might recognize that is the vendor that won the bid on the purchase of the firearms. And then 3 other vendors that supplied a quote. Some didn't supply. I sent it to 6 just because right now some are being told 6 to 10 months in actually being able to provide that the ammunition that we need to do the training that is required. So
gracious.
So 4 out of the 6 vendors did respond. And we have, obviously when you talk about, cartridges and different things, there's some parameters they had based on, the who they supply for.
Okay.
So maybe more information you want to know about ammunition, but I'm willing to answer whatever you.
And so why was was this a seal? Did this come with the guns, these bids, or?
No, this is a separate, we've always done quotes for ammunition. Just because, if you look per round, it's much smaller, but we order a quantity. So that's why we want to make sure to give you the information. This
Yes.
we've always done by at least 3 quotes. We put out to 6, we got 4. And we've attached those on the requisition as well.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. It'll come from the same place, and you're saying that they can do it in a timely manner. Do you get it like spread over the year, or they send all that they have? How does that come?
We will, just to make sure we have it in our possession, get what they have right away. So, and then they'll get it when they come in. So that is one thing across the country that agencies are dealing with, the shortage. And like I said, in a lot of cases, it's 6 to 10 months delivery.
Oh, okay. Commissioners, you have any questions?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
According to the undersheriff, well, this is the way we've always done it. Well, maybe so, but is it not violating our own purchasing policy to send out for sealed bids that have to be opened? My personal thing is, if we're going to follow policy, we need to follow policy. There's no reason that ammunition is any different than printing paper or anything else that the county purchases. I have no problem with, and I understand from the undersheriff, yes, ammunition is very hard to find, so you're looking to find out who has it. But once again, it's all about the process. If we're going to follow our policies, we need to follow our policies for the entire department. We just went through a new policy change for purchasing for a single source form that went over $20,000. In there, it said if it was going to be over that, it had to go out for 3 bids. We do all of our bids and they're sealed bids. So I guess that's my problem that I have. How are we following policy and how are we not? This is not an emergency purchase. Once again, this is a regular budgeted item.
Can I follow up on that statement?
Yes,
Madam
please.
Chair?
Yes.
So to the Finance Committee, that form was just adopted last week, and we are still working to get this information pushed out. If you notice that some of the work that was done to collect this information goes back to February. So with respect, I completely understand and appreciate Commissioner Scott's position, but we are still playing catch up. And we have been talking with departments, and just in the last week, we've had conversations with animal control about sole source purchases, about quoting and bidding. Just at the end of last week, I had the same conversation with the Drain Commissioner's office about capital purchases. And so I guess in defense of the process that you're looking at, you'll note that these quotes go back to February, and I think that it would make sense to proceed given the scarcity tied to ammunition. With respect, I completely get Commissioner Scott's point, and will absolutely be communicating the Finance Committee's desire to see just a more standard and routine bidding process, as well as following that form that was approved. But right now, this is one that predates last week's meeting.
And I thank you both for your input. And we're not through yet with our policy, the portion that we did about the sole source, the 2 things that there's more to come, and will be, we mean that it goes to all departments, all the, people that buy things. And so because of, this is what they knew to do because they've been doing it always, I'd like for us to be able to go ahead and say, purchase the ammunition. And I've heard what Commissioner Scott said. I'd like to ask the other board members, please, what is your thought about this? What should we do?
Madam Chair, I'll make a comment very quickly.
Yes.
And the comment that I would have would be that I'm sympathetic to the scarcity of the ammunition. Spent a lot of time at the range, and so ammunition is very, very scarce. And I agree with Ezra 100% that we need to follow a process. We do make exceptions, however, and this exception is it's probably very justified in this case, just from the standpoint that it is because of the scarcity of the ammunition. We don't want to find ourselves short on it. We don't want to find ourselves short on training. In my case, it's taken me about a year to get ammunition since the COVID crisis has begun. And because COVID is out there and still hasn't wrapped up, and there are other factors I think that have caused the ammunition to be so scarce. But as I understand it right now, the capacity, and I believe I've got this number right for Winchester, is 700,000 rounds a day. And they are still 7 months. They can produce 700,000 rounds a day, and they're still 7 months out on orders. So I don't know if any of that's confirmed by Chuck and Paul, but those are my thoughts. And it's certainly, as far as the price goes, it's not out of line, I don't think. But those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Freeling? I don't mean to be putting you all in a spot, but I want you to have some input in this.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity, Madam Chair. I just want to echo some of the comments that have been made, and to the point that our administrator made, we've just adopted that form. We've been working through it for the last couple of weeks. The Sheriff's Department has always been a good partner in trying to make certain that we're, building that trust for the public. And I'm quite certain that as we move forward, we'll be able to make certain that we continue to adhere to those policies. So considering all of the circumstances that we're facing, and I do know that there is a shortage for ammunition, would be okay with moving forward with this. Yes.
Thank you. Under Sheriff Height, tell me again that number, what the price is from the Vance.
I know Brian shared a screen. I think it was 32,000 and I've got
Okay,
my
that's
Zoom on,
good.
so I can pull it up.
32,000.
Brian, if you've got it quicker than I do, I can pull my emails.
No, that's close enough. I remember seeing it.
$32,199.
Thank you.
With tax and shipping.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, no shipping.
And is that the special price that sheriff's departments get under Sheriff Height?
Yeah, so some have law enforcement pricing, so that may be why they were a little cheaper than others, but it's really, the price set, and ammunition is those that those that use it has gone up, over the last year. So
yes,
we thought that was a very competitive price. And the main thing is, what people have the availability to get. So
good, there is. And so what I ask you to do and you're here, you listen, you heard, is to go ahead and order, the consensus is to go ahead and order the ammunition.
thank you. And we will obviously comply with any of the changes we get, direction. So, when you look at these are by quantity or by piece, not expensive, but whatever the committee wants, we'll do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair. This
yes.
Scott, as a follow-up, I'm not questioning the pricing of the ammo or any of that. We need it. We need to get it. What I'm questioning is the process, and the process has nothing to do with the single source agreement that we just put out. I just used reference. The process that I'm talking about I've been a county commissioner for 5 years, and we have not changed that purchasing policy where when this goes out, it goes out and comes back for a sealed bid. That's what I'm questioning. That policy has not changed
No, that's
at
not.
all. And that was what my point was. If we're going to do sealed bids for the road department, and I even said the print department, then we need to do it for every department. I have no problem in purchasing ammo from the least, from the person who has the lowest bid. I want open and transparency for all the departments just following our process, our policy. That's all.
Thank you. Annette, the agenda, please. What's there?
Yeah, so that requisition is part of the requisition list today. And so I
It's
guess
done.
as long as, if finance is okay with at least staying on the requisition and we get that approved as part of the requisition process.
Yes.
It is on there now. I do have a question that I actually, Chuck, I sent you a message there. It looks like the screenshot that Brian showed was 32,199, and on the requisition that's on the list, it's at 32 even. So do we need to change the rec to include the 199 for shipping, Chuck?
No, I added in there, we're gonna actually pick it up. So it doesn't, we drop ship, we're gonna actually save, that and pick it up, so.
Okay, so the 32 grand is the cost.
Right,
Even.
yep.
Okay.
And on the
All right.
requisition, it had our pickup, so.
Okay.
I didn't see that, sorry.
Okay. All right. And on the agenda next, Annette?
Yep, so you had the resolution for your weekly bills that was sent out to you from the clerk's office. If anybody has any questions about that, you can take those. If not, just need concurrence to move that forward to the full board.
Any questions about the bills? Then we say, put it through. Go ahead.
And then the other one is the resolution ending in 182, which is the approval of the settlement agreement. And if everybody is good with that one, then that's also scheduled to go for the full board today.
And how do we sign that? How do we get to sign it, or it's just assumed that it's signed? It's from the finance committee.
So I have been, since we went virtual, when I get your concurrence to move something forward, then I am attaching a signature to that with my little initials after it for every resolution. Otherwise, we would have a lot of resolutions here that have been passed that are not signed by anyone. They would just be blank. So that's how we've been doing that in the process. The actual agreement today is for the chair. So when the chair is here leading your meetings, he is the one who is signing.
Okay. All right.
On the actual agreement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
And now, Administrator, this said, are we ready to do the presentation from Department Head Dan Fetty?
Yeah, Dan's on the edge of the seat, raring to go.
I think this is closer. I can see people and I kind of recognize them.
Sorry, I moved him back because we haven't sanitized that spot over there, so I had to move him back a little ways.
Yeah, because I'm so dirty.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I don't really have a full presentation for you. I just wanted to brief you very quickly on some developments that are going on with the creation of the county master plan. To give you some real quick background here, the master plan that we currently have is an updated version of a plan that was drafted in 2009 by a private consultant working on behalf of the county and working in cooperation with the Planning Commission. So it's been 12 years since we had an outside consultant come in and actually take a hard look at development patterns in the county and draft a professional master plan for us. We're required by law to update that plan every 5 years, more or less. And Katie and I did the previous update in 2015. It wasn't a modification of the plan, it was just, updating certain sections of it to reflect new data, new development patterns, and so forth. So we're due to update this plan again. It was really going to be last year, but this year principally. Pursuant to the enabling legislation, we did send out notification to all neighboring communities that we would be updating the master plan. And Katie and I started digging into this, and we realized, you know, there has been substantial changes in the development patterns of Berrien County in the last 12 years. There's been substantial changes in public interest in things like roads, parks, open space, broadband, of course, is on that list. Very little of which is reflected in our current master plan. And we came to the conclusion at the staff level that we really need to rewrite this plan entirely because it's really out of date at this point. We met with the Planning Commission on Tuesday to discuss this, and we recommended that we submit an RFP to retain a planning consultant or consultant firm to come in and work with the Planning Commission to prepare a full revision of our existing master plan. And the Planning Commission was supportive of that. I will tell you that we have in our department available reserve funds to pay for this. The cost, you know, we generally won't announce that in a public meeting what we expect it to be, but it'll probably be $30,000 to $40,000, I'm guessing, you know, depending on the complexity of the job. And it'll probably take about 9 to 12 months to complete to do it correctly. So I'm here today to just let you know what our intentions are and to get any comments or feedback from you, but we really think this is the most appropriate thing to do at this point, considering, like I said, it's been 12 years since we did a thorough revision of this plan.
Questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Freeland, and I serve as the member from the Board of Commissioners on the Planning Commission. And I remember when the last master plan was approved, I had just been appointed to the board in 2015. And I think that this direction is a good one. I think it is very much a worthwhile endeavor. And I believe that Dan's comments are correct. Things have certainly been changing with regards to development and interest. And I think it would be worthwhile just to dive into that a little bit more with the consultant to be able to make certain that what we're providing to constituents and the municipalities surrounding to help them be able to develop their master plans as well, so that we have a clear picture of what those interests are.
Thank you. Other comments? And then, so administrator just said, what do we need to do? Just make a consensus saying, yes, go out for the RFPs? It's not a motion or anything. Is it a motion?
Well, Commissioner, what will happen is Katie and I will draft the RFP. In fact, we've already done so. And then we will put a bid rec together for this committee, and we'll submit the bid rec along with the draft RFP. And I think we'll have that to you next week.
Okay.
We also have, just to let you know, we have provisions in that RFP that says that the bids will be referred to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation, but the contract will issue through the county Board of Commissioners. So we want to keep the Planning Commissioners involved in the selection process here, so they have some ownership over the process. But in any event, we will have the RFP in your hands and the bid rec for you next Thursday.
Okay.
And I'll be back here as well next Thursday, because I think we're going to give you a briefing on the American Rescue Plan Act and all of the the $30 million or so that's supposed to be coming to the county here very shortly. So I'll be here next week to discuss that with you as well.
And it's called what? What's it called? American Rescue? What?
It's the Recovery Act.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are we doing that in finance, or are we doing that in the full board?
We'll do it with finance.
In finance, okay. So we do have other things on the agenda besides just, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, all right.
Okay?
Okay. Okay. Anything
Okay,
else?
well,
Anything else, Director Fetty?
I have nothing else for you unless you have any questions for me.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
We do need to approve the minutes, please. The minutes from March 4th, 2021. I'll need a motion on that, please.
May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Freeling. I make that motion.
Thank you. May I have support? May I have a support?
Yes, Commissioner Scott, I'll support.
Thank you. Any questions, corrections? Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeling.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Annette?
Yep, so now I'm gonna go check for public comments.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
point of order, while we're waiting on public comments, I am going to request that this be added to our minutes. I think we need to have a archive record of this, and what I would like to add to our minutes, today's minutes, is the issues that were raised earlier this month by the road finance manager on the closing out of the 2020 books. I would like this committee to have Administrator Doucette check into this issue as to the timing of the closure of the 2020 books. It's already 3 months past the December 31st closing. And I would like to know or have the administrator look into that issue. And I'd like that statement to be part of our minutes for today.
Say it again. Road Department, the add to the minutes, the closure of the 2020 Road Department books.
Books, as stated by the road finance manager. And I'd like to have the administrator look into that and find out whether or not the books have been closed, and if so, why has it taken an extra 3 months? Thank you.
Or if not, why is it taking, huh?
Right, if not,
Okay.
either or. Thank you.
And what do you need for that to happen? You need a support for it, or what needs to happen?
I don't know, I just
It's
want
just a
I
statement.
would just like to add it to the minutes so that there's an archival record of this.
Okay. Administrator Doucette, is that sufficient? The statement?
Yep, I know what to do.
Okay. Thank you. And it will be done. Thank you.
Public comment?
Administrator Doucette, do you have any other things that you want to tell us before we go listen to the patrons?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Annette, do you have any statements for us?
I do.
We're ready.
Okay. Peter Colobus, Colobos, from Hager Township. That's a great price for ammo. Kelsey Schonwitz, Schoenwitz, from Stevensville. If the Finance Committee is so concerned with following a bid purchasing policy, why did an RFP for management services at the road department get released this week to specific vendors and not get published in the website? I have to ask this person where they're from. Just 1 second. I have one more. I think we have this individual in the previous one, so I'll go ahead and give the comment. I'll add the municipality here in a second. It's Alex Riley. And if the Finance Committee is so concerned with following a bid purchasing policy, why did an RFP for management services at the road department get released this week to specific vendors and not get published on the website? Mr. Riley is from Coloma Township. I will ask one more time if there are any more comments.
Can you tell us how many people are on the site?
Yeah, I think you had up to, like 20 at one point. Yeah, you did have up to 20 at one point. You're down to about 18 now. Just wait one more second here and just allow people an opportunity to respond if they want to. I usually start at, like, in the beginning of the meeting, I'll put that in the chat box, but public comments are usually at the end of the meeting with, you know, give me your name and your municipality and that whole thing. So I try to reach out throughout the whole meeting so we don't have some lag. It appears as though that's all. Of course, at the 10:30 Board of Commissioners meeting, there will be another opportunity for public comments during that meeting, which starts at 10:30. That's it.
Okay. Commissioners, any other things you would like to say? Thank you.
Once again,
Yes.
Madam Chair, it appears that Finance has a large contingent of viewers.
They want to know where the money is. What's the money? Thank you all so much. And thank you, Stephanie and Annette and Administrator Dissett. Thank you all. I will see you all at 10:30. Okay? I had enough time to go somewhere and get breakfast, but no, I'm not going anywhere.